am I? Who am I? Who am I? It's a good word. I mean, good question. Good word. Good question. Who am I? It's a question that we should. I think we should always ask ourselves. Of course, it's about personal identity first and foremost, but I think it's really important that we know who we are as a person. It's a question we should ask ourselves. The first time I remember writing it down, not necessarily asking him because um, I think in some form it crops up a lot when you're younger. But the first time I actually wrote it down was in 1995. I was a senior in high school. I was giving a speech about it to about 40 other juniors and seniors at a weekend retreat. I mean, I probably should have felt a little more honored or something. It was made to because I was first. Um, all the leaders in the of the groups led talks, but I was first. So it's like kind of it's a good stepping stone, I think, for public speaking. Because even though it was we were seated in a circle, it wasn't like standing up in front of a group on a podium or anything. It was sitting in a circle, and I had this talk. But I started with "Who am I?" and I don't remember what all I wrote, but how I started was, "Who am I? A student, a son, a Boy Scout. But I'm more than that." Now, the point that I got to that night was that I'm a child of God. And, we all have to be unique children of God and we're created and blah, blah, blah. That's not the point of this vlog. No, the point, that's, no, because I'm not, the, the point, I think, is that the responses change over the years, but the question needs to be asked. The responses change almost every time we ask the question, but not every time because we say the same time, but they should change. The underlying theme that it's about identity, that doesn't change. It's always there, you know. The underlying theme of that talk is the same point of these vlogs. We're more than labels. That's the real point. The theme. We're more than labels. More than labels that we give ourselves and that other people give us. Yes, I did say give ourselves because we do call ourselves certain things. Um, that's a lot of times we call ourselves certain things. Now, sometimes we get bullied and called names by other people. Those are it's the being of labels because the names are just labels that haven't been formalized. Yeah, but we label ourselves too. I do a lot of this self-labeling. I am a pretty judgmental person. I know this about me. I label people, other people, and myself. I just drop labels, but I don't stick with them. And see, that's the thing. You don't stick with your labels. You might simplify things. Use it to simplify things, but you don't stick with your labels. I got a story. Um, I always my vloggery always has a story, and it's like a personal story. Um, I wrote it down, of course. I like following this. 'Cause it keeps me kind of grounded. Um, this is something I think about a lot, but I don't want to go way off on tangents. Um, okay, okay. Here's the story. When we were in high school, I was bullied by this one guy. We're gonna call him Jim. That's not his real name, but I don't like using real names because what if I do become famous or something and people see their name and they're like, oh, "He thought what about me?" Because people know that I talk about them, and I talk about Jim a lot actually. Um, well, not a lot. There's a couple of stories though I do tell about him because he was an interesting character, and I use that name, but we use last names a lot when we're talking to each other, to other people, because the first time we knew each other was in freshman PE, and in freshman PE, the coach, dude, I don't remember what his name was, he called us all by our last names, so we'll call him Jaeger. No, Jim Yeager. Jim. I'll call him Jim in the story, but it's Jim Yeager. That'll be the made up last name that I use. Okay, Jim Yeager was the stereotypical jock in so many ways. I label him. In my head, I label him. I didn't say it out loud because he probably would kick the crap out of me. Um, no, I labeled him as a dumb jock because he was big. Well, bigger than me, muscle. He played football. He talked a little slow and did some pretty jockish things. He did one of the most jockish things that you can think about. He ate the dissection perch in his biology class because he was dared. They dared him to eat it, so he ate a piece. He probably could have died. I don't know because I don't know what they use to preserve their fish in honors biology because I was not in that class, but he was in honors biology. So there's something I see. I logged it in back on my mind. He was a jock, and I was a nerd. But he was in honors biology. I logged it. I didn't think about it till much later. But that should have been the fraction. It should have fractor fraction should have fractured my use of stereotypes, knowing that well, he couldn't be a jock if he was that smart. He was a smart dumb jock. So that's what it was. First 2 years of high school, Jim called me loser, called me weird, and he made insults about my sexuality that I won't go into. But as a teenager, that really bothered me. Now it probably wouldn't. It doesn't. But it would have then, and it did then. But he never used the label nerd. Maybe because he realized that that stereotype didn't fit totally. It doesn't fit anybody totally. It really doesn't. Um, in the late '90s, it wasn't as hard of a stigma to be a nerd as it was like in the mid to late '80s. Revenge of the Nerds. It was jocks versus nerds. Nerd, the dog just freaked out. But so it wasn't a big stigma, and nowadays it's cool, gig chic. It's like trendy or something. Hey, I was a nerd before it was cool. Anyway, that's a digression. Senior year, he did something that I didn't expect at all. He apologized to me. He came to me and he said, "No, I was a real dick the first 2 years of high school, and I want to say I'm sorry, and I hope we can be friends." And it was out of character. At least it was out of what I thought of as character, because what I thought of a jock as a jock only thinks about his game. He's egotistical, his game, and maybe himself. That's, but he didn't think about other people. In my mind, that label, that stereotype, he doesn't think about anything that doesn't benefit him or make him win or what. So that stereotype was I logged in the back of my mind again. It should have broken stereotypes completely, but it didn't. I still use stereotypes a lot to simplify things. I'll apply labels, um, but it's so much more complex than that. Life is more complex. We are more than label. Like we ask ourselves, who am I? What's my identity? Um, so much more than label because we have a history. We have thoughts and dreams of the future. It's like you're more than just you are outside of a box. Um, by definition, I think humans have to live outside of a box. Um, and that's the point that I want to make here is we ask ourselves that question and don't get simple. You know, say don't simply stop with I'm a nerd, I'm a loser. Yeah, more than that. And I think we're all more than than that, more than our labels. Um, I know I've got a little bit of depth to me. I know I can be a little bit funny sometimes. But you got to get through a lot of crap to get to the funny part. So it's like a lot of people probably don't want to do it. Um, some people might be intimidated by me because this calm and cool thing that I on the exterior, I don't know how that would be labeled, but people have. They've called me cool and calm, but I don't know. Maybe that's labeled because a lot of times I don't show on the outside how freaking out I am on the inside. And that's how a lot of people are. They've got more on the inside than they're showing. And I think people need to be given kind of the benefit of the doubt, kind of an open slate, you know. Yeah, labels if you have to. I think I have to simplify life, but but don't ever make people stay in that box that you made for them. I mean, give them a chance. Give other people a chance and give yourself a chance. That's my advice. This vlog.